Hey everyone, welcome to Zen Hustlers Balance Podcast. My name is Jared Brick, the creator. We exist to support you as busy professionals, entrepreneurs, people who want to have an impact with their life and their career, but they feel overwhelmed, stress, and the anxiety of running your own thing and being that highly productive person. So we have a free resource website, zenhustlers.com. It is complete with experts, books, podcasts, events, things that you can leverage today to help you find that balance on the edge. For our Balance podcast, we love to interview people who are walking the talk, who are living the ethos, finding that fine line of balance in your life and in your work so that you can be productive and impactful. So today I have the pleasure of interviewing a dear friend of mine, Stephanie Staidle. She is a coach, she is a mentor, she is an entrepreneur, and we're going to hear more about what she's up to nowadays. So thank you so much for joining us from San Diego, Stephanie.
Thanks for having me, Jared. Such a pleasure as always.
Any excuse to get time with you, I'm very happy to have. Stephanie and I worked on a course together about 4 years ago called Break On Through. She was an expert on that course. She's one of my favorite people. I have to tell you a quick story about my vision board. So if you're not doing vision board, you need to learn how to do a vision board. Stephanie can help you. I did a vision board about 2 years ago. And this year specifically, there was one image that actually I manifested to be the exact same place in the world. And it happened so synergistically, there's no way the universe wasn't involved to have me be there. The exact same location in the Caribbean on a trip I finally took for myself that I manifested from 2 years ago of an image in a cave, a sea cave.
Wow. Oh, I
So
love those
this
stories.
stuff works. This stuff works. It's really
Yes.
impactful. So
Yeah.
tell people a little bit about your journey through entrepreneurship and where you're at these days, and we'll dive in.
Yeah. Well, I think something everyone might want to know about entrepreneurship, especially if you're in the beginning stages, is it's ever evolving. You know, you never fully arrive because there's always the next level. For me, my journey began in, the corporate world outside of college.
Mm,
That's kind of what, many of us are told is the path to take. But I
mm,
always felt from a really early age that I just like it wasn't like
didn't
the
fit.
way people were doing things, and what everyone was telling me I should or should not do didn't resonate with me. And so I did not last very long. I lasted a few years in marketing and advertising, and then went back to school, got my master's in art therapy, did family therapy and social work for a really long time, and then eventually transitioned into my own business after I started doing some more personal development, and especially just learning more coaching modalities, which is distinct. There's similarities, but it's distinct from therapy. And I wanted to really create an organization, a company, and services that combine the best of psychology and therapy and the best of coaching. And so that's what I've been doing for the last 15 years. I started off doing career coaching, and that evolved into coaching leaders and businesses. Because as my business grew, people wanted to know how they could get support in that as well. And then, we'll probably talk a little bit more about this today, but speaking about the ever evolving piece, I had a very specific ideal client. I had a very specific program and a very specific brand that I was using for over a decade.
Mm,
And in the last 4 to 5 years, I've started to feel like that no longer resonated, just because I've been evolving and the world has been shifting, and I'm learning new things about how the world works and what the world needs. And so recently I've actually been in the process of what most would call a rebranding. Like what am I really about now? And it's not
yeah.
entirely different from what I was doing, but it's more nuanced.
I hear you. I hear you. Brickhouse Media has gone through a variety. That's our media-based company that supports this podcast. We've gone through a variety of shifts over the last few years, from the last 2 years working with a video software company and investing with sweat equity and getting involved because I saw the need for that. And now coming back into, the beauty of being a media company is you get to do a lot of different things. You get to choose the direction of the projects. You get to kind of be wide scope. So I'm enjoying right now working at a lot of different different types of clients, different types of things. And again, it's like this ever evolving journey. I think that's part of the challenge for people, though. It's not this one and done.
Mm-hmm.
It's not build it, sell it, you're done. It's just not like that. So tell people a little bit about your journey through, you're someone, and I just want to give you credit here, who is always seeking to live a better life. You're always pushing that needle, whether it's your relationships, your work, your health, whatever it is. I always know that you've done the research, you've put in the time, a little bit of it, you're willing to be a human guinea pig for some new things and new therapies. So tell people a little bit about your journey through the wellness part of becoming an entrepreneur and what it takes, the grit. A lot of people use that term grit now.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. So whenever I'm coaching someone that's considering entrepreneurship, the first thing I say is not for the faint of heart. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like you
Yeah.
can make a massive contribution as an employee in a company. So this is not to poo-poo on, the corporate world. We need businesses,
Yeah.
we need employees. But you really have to have a larger purpose, a larger desire, and you might call it grit. I would call it commitment, because commitment is something that's unwavering.
Yeah.
It's picking yourself up from the ground after failure,
Yeah.
which I define as just simply not getting the results that you wanted. But
Mm.
still, that can take a toll, and you have to be willing to get up and try again and like reiterate and all that. So I think it's first and foremost about like what are you really committed to, and your commitment has to be larger than your fear. Just
What was your commitment when you started the business?
um
All back then?
honestly, my
Yeah.
my first commitment was I wanted something that was really fulfilling, that I felt made an impact on a larger level than I thought I could make as a therapist. And
Yeah.
the second piece was lifestyle. I didn't want anyone to tell me what to do. I wanted to make my own schedule. And frankly, I didn't want to work more than 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
And that is the exact lifestyle that I've created.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this, like I could be making tons more money if I worked 40, 50-hour weeks, but that's not aligned with the lifestyle I want. So something I always want to share with entrepreneurs too is there's a lot of people out there that talk about, the hustle and the grit. And then what they don't share is all the work that goes into creating, for example, $1 million business.
Yeah.
A lot of entrepreneurs burn out, or they don't have time for their family, for the friends. Like what's the point in that? So it's really about understanding what motivates you, and what kind of lifestyle do you want. And I intentionally am fine with making less money, because for me, my time is worth so much more.
Yeah. That's the one asset you're never getting back, right?
Right.
You can do a lot of different things. How do you know when you're out of balance? Like what are some signals when you're feeling like, yep, this is starting to slip?
Yeah. So something like this just happened to me this summer.
Okay.
I was feeling really bored and unfulfilled, not
Hmm.
only in my work, but in the things that usually bring me joy. So it
Yeah.
almost felt like, and there was a numbness associated with it. I really was like, wow, I feel depressed.
Hmm.
Um, and looking back, what it actually was is I was burnt out, and I hadn't taken space for myself in a really long time. I would say at least once a quarter, to just have a weekend by myself. My husband's amazing in like supporting me in that, and it might just be like a staycation a couple hours away.
Yeah.
But it's that spaciousness where I'm taking myself out of my environment, and I'm with no agenda. I don't have a plan of what I might do with that time. That can be really, really useful. So when I notice some signs of depression, when I might be irritable, or a lack of fulfillment in things that normally bring me joy, that is usually a sign that I am out of balance. And what I recently did is I took 2 weeks off. I went down to Mexico on a whim, found myself an Airbnb, and was there by myself for 2 weeks. And I came back feeling like a whole new person. And the spaciousness actually allowed new motivation and new inspiration to come in. And it was scary because there was the possibility that wouldn't happen,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't have known that if I didn't give myself that space.
Yeah, and I'm guessing that wasn't the only reason you wanted to go, was to have that all that new inspiration. I also took a solo trip this summer. I think the first true solo vacation, and back to the vision board that I created in over 12 years. Because if I realized since I had kids, I had done little trips and business trips and see family, but those aren't individual solo missions. They're not. They're not
Yeah.
reconnecting with just you. And, and so for some people that's great. For some people, they want to spend time with friends or family and just tune out or recommit. So I love that. That's a really good insight. Like when you're not feeling the things that normally spark joy, and being intentional with those words, because that's a popular term now,
Mhm.
um, for Marie Kondo, and cleaning your home and cleaning your space. So when those things are not sparking joy, it's like, okay, I need to do a little research investigation here. What's going on? What are some of the internal things? What are some of the things some of your clients are challenged with as they start to go down the path, or they're already down the path?
Of entrepreneurship or just in
Yeah.
general, would you say? Because I also have leadership clients that
Oh,
are in
focus.
corporations.
Yeah, professionally, just professionally.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think there's a couple of things, and they're probably all related. So my work is really about creating a business from the place of being unapologetically you,
Mm,
and a place that is completely aligned. And but in the face of a society and a world that tells us what we can and cannot do or be, societal pressures and norms, also systems that are built to oppress, it's very easy to be swayed out of that. And it's normal, I would say, as well, right? We are social beings. The way we survive is through our relationships and through our connections. No one wants to be rejected. No one wants to be like left
yeah.
alone on the street.
Yeah.
The chance of that really happening is so rare. So really distinguishing, first what your truth is, and in those moments where you are stuck between the choice of sharing your truth, using the power of your voice, or remaining silent, or kind of choosing what you might feel pressure to do, or I would even say the alternative is something that's more driven by fear,
Hmm.
or like, oh, I need to pay my bills, or something, that being able to really stand in your truth, that's one challenge. And it kind of leads into another one, which is setting personal boundaries. I
Yeah.
find this is especially difficult with women. I work with a lot of female leaders, very passionate about that.
Yeah.
But we live in a society that, women have a lot of emotional labor. They're expected to have a career and be a full-time mom, or even
Yeah.
fulfill on certain societal norms. And as a result, we are conditioned to say yes to everything, to be available, and to be great at it all. And we then
That's somewhat unrealistic. I would,
yeah,
as you're saying, it's like, yeah, you can see how unbelievably unrealistic that is, especially not living in a village society anymore.
exactly,
Especially
yeah,
not living in that type of society. Our last podcast guest is about it takes a village to raise a family to be successful, and so having all those support systems. So where
yeah.
do you think that comes from? Just our society? Is every society like that? Have you come across different societies around the world that aren't as domineering as that, or is it just America?
I would say
Most
most are
societies.
still living in a more patriarchal kind of system. And there's nothing wrong with the masculine. I always want to mention that. There's a lot. I
Yeah.
mean, we need to be aware that there is the kind of what the sacred masculine and the toxic masculine, and there's a sacred feminine and a toxic feminine as well.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
right now we live in a society that is more leaning towards the toxic masculinity,
Mhm.
and it's all about do work hard, not even understanding that you have needs. If you're resting, you're lazy. Like there's a, and then
This is exactly why we exist. This is
yeah,
exactly why we exist, to break all those norms for men, women, and everyone in
exactly.
between as far as genders. We like to actually, this is under the guidance of one of our former guests, it's yin and yang. It's not even male and female anymore because it's not focused on gender. I have yin yang energy, so do you. It's just an energetic movement. And sometimes we're too yin and sometimes we're too yang.
Yeah.
And so I've actually found it easier to relate to that nowadays
Mm,
versus the male female,
yeah.
because that conversation, especially for white males, has gotten even more challenging to have.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um,
So going back to when people are kind of discovering that authentic voice, and we do this in our media work also, um, what are some of the kind of roadblocks they hit? Is the cultural conditioning? Is it actually finding that voice? Like, what is my authentic voice in this world? How do I want to contribute? Where do you see some of those things happening in work? Let's face it, there's simply not enough professionally trained video creators out there to meet the immense demand in the market today. Since the pandemic, the need for online video has increased dramatically, and in the next few years, the internet will be dominated by video. So, who will make them all? Will there be enough trained video creators to fill this market need? Who will it be? Maybe it's you. Hi, I'm Jared Brick, a digital media and marketing thought leader, a video producer with over 2 decades of real world experience. I spent the last few years of the pandemic working with hundreds of people, both remotely and in person, to create videos so their business could grow during real limitations and honestly, tough times. What we learned was a hyper efficient way to create videos for professionals, easier to make, with better quality, and from anywhere. My passion is to share my love of video and creating effective media for businesses with the whole world. In the last few years, I've realized firsthand the immense need from companies, brands, and professionals. This desire for creating video internally and hiring externally. Now, some did have the budgets for bigger productions, and that's great for a select few out there. But honestly, most wanted to lean on a local professional and learn how to do it internally also. Most simply did not have the resources, the skills, or the know how as a process to create them in a modern and efficient way that look great. Also, in the modern workforce, many of us have become freelancers. We've shifted our work towards business models that offer us more freedom to earn and personal creativity. The world is different now, and the internet is on fire with video. So, my partners and I created an in person, not online, course to train this next generation of modern video creators. One ideal for people from all walks of life, working from home, parents, teachers, entrepreneurs, managers, and even leaders running businesses who need video today. Plus, we're out to offer people a new career path in both video production and a business model complete with a core set of skills and competencies to leverage anywhere they work in the world. So take a moment to review this. Click the button below to reach out to us with your interest in this hands on intensive training course. We're excited to meet the next generation of video creators and hear how you will be involved in the video revolution to come. Thanks for watching and hope to meet you soon.
Well, I think first there is a kind of most of my clients come to me with some sense of knowing their purpose already,
Okay, good.
versus not knowing it at all.
Yeah.
But then it's really about clarifying it for ourselves and really distinguishing ourselves and what really makes me unique. What do I, at the end of the day, really stand for, and how do I want to set myself apart? And it also comes down to our personal integrity. Like, so the work I do is about making sure every single part of your business is aligned and in integrity with your values, but also with what the world needs right now. So we see this a lot with entrepreneurs is, you know, they're maybe they don't have sustainable practices or you know, they're not paying their employees a living wage. Well, for
Yeah.
me, that's actually not a business that's in integrity, because for me, I believe business can change the world and every aspect of our business needs to be in service, not just some. So I would say that that's difficult though, because we've been conditioned to believe that we can't do that. But that's just because we, as a company, as a world, I think we highlight success in a certain way. And yet, you know, I'm sure you just saw the media about Patagonia. I mean, Patagonia is going to be fine. He's giving away all his money, but he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And that's possible for all business owners, right?
Yeah.
And so there's this idea that like, oh, it's either I can make an impact and give, or I can make a lot of money.
It's the classic and or mentality, right? Like, oh, I can't do that and this. No way.
Yeah.
It's like, no, actually you have the and mentality and you can include both in your life.
Yeah.
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 So what are some ways that, like, give me an example of some of the ways that you're working with clients now? Is it one-on-one coaching? Is it cohort groups? Is it team building? What is the style of modality that you're doing?
Yeah. Right now I have been focusing on contract work, but I'm now just about to open up my private coaching practice again because I needed to
Okay.
take a break for a while. I
Yeah.
was telling you about 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, wait, who am I really? Who do I really want to serve? And now I'm really, really clear on that. But I really want to give a high attention and commitment to each of my clients. So I'm only taking 1 or 2 clients a month. And
Mhm.
what I've been working with clients on is that purpose, mission, authentic voice piece, creating a strategy around that, but also really making sure your business is aligned with, for example, UN's top 17 sustainable development goals, right? Like you need to be
Yep.
able to point that your goal is really going to solve some of the world's biggest problems
Mhm.
because it's all hands on deck right now. And this is not to again, invalidate the other businesses that are out there. They're just not the people that I'm feeling inspired to support. I think there's lots of support for them, but I'm really looking for the disruptors, the change makers, the ones that know that our systems are broken and that they want to be a part of shifting that. And I honestly believe that it takes a village, but a small village to really create massive shift in this world. And I think with just a few, if you can just imagine if some of the largest businesses that took a
Mhm.
stand on certain issues, and not to say that they aren't in integrity in some areas, but there's room for more, we would see a massive shift. I mean, if those companies no longer accepted money from lobbyists, like
Just right there. Just right
right
there.
there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like we would see a
Just enough.
massive
Like
change.
separate actually business and politics for once. Yeah.
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 So it's going to take courage. It's going to take, a stand. And that's why the authentic voice is really important. Because here's the thing, it will eventually erode at you. If you are taking action that's not aligned in your business, in your life, at some point it will catch up with you.
Yeah.
I've heard stories of this where people all of a sudden are experiencing panic attacks.
Yeah.
And it's because the action they're taking is no longer aligned, and so much so that their body is revolting. So that's the work I do, is I hold people accountable to that, but I help them see that it's possible. We build a really strong strategy and we start taking action, and they make the connections, and they find the people who are interested in the same things, the same mission, and they
Yeah.
partner with them. And those are their clients and those are their business partners.
Got it. I love that. And I can hear a little bit of your husband in there, Brandon Peele, and the power of business, because we've interviewed Brandon Peele and Purpose Work Nation and his belief that, change is going to come through business.
Yeah.
We can't wait for politics and we can't wait for government. We can't wait for religion to step up. It has to be business first, which is a core driver of our economy and how we live. So
Yeah.
I can hear a
Absolutely.
little bit about that. So not to take away your thunder, but I'm sure he's been chattering in your ear a little bit over dinner.
Yeah. Or you could even say that I influenced him
Oh, I like
because
it.
I've been
I
saying
like it.
this before he
Humans.
went into that sector. So if he was here,
Oh,
we
all
might have a
right, all
little
right.
bit
I
of
like how you
a
flip the
fighting
tables
match.
on that one.
Right. But he addresses it within companies. I address it with the founders. I address it with companies that are in, their first 5 years of business, generally
Yeah,
5 to 10 years, that are
forming
still
what it's going to
developing it.
look like. Yeah,
Yeah, creating that foundation, or CEOs or founders that have been in business for a while, and now they're seeing that it's no longer sustainable or in an integrity, and they want to pivot. And those are the people that I
that's
work with.
powerful work. I love that.
Yeah.
That's super powerful work because that's when people have that clarity moment of like, I need to, shift what I'm doing. It's not in alignment anymore. The things we're partners with or investing in or whatever we're doing is not in alignment anymore. So I think that's really powerful, transformative work to bring to companies and leaders. And it's similar because, we've been focusing on, I had this conversation earlier of, sustainability to me is not just about the environment any longer. When I
Yeah.
first got into it with my MBA program, it was all environment. And it's interesting because I interview kids at my kids' schools, and it's all environment and it's all animals, and they never mention people. And it's
Mm,
people, planet, and profit
yeah.
around triple bottom line sustainability. We've been hyper focused on the profit, and now we're hyper focused on the planet, and we're forgetting that the people that take the action is the big step to get involved with. So I love that you're doing that on a people level,
Mhm.
and taking that work. So what are some things that give us an example of someone who's going through a transformation. They're trying to figure out, how do I take the next steps? And now they have to communicate that to either their team or their board, whoever they're accountable to as stakeholders.
Mhm.
I mean, they're not in those conversations with you. So are you teaching them how to also translate that communication to their teams and their boards?
Yeah, I mean, I'll even do mock outs with my clients in our sessions if they need it. I think there's some best practices in terms of how we can communicate change,
Yeah.
and that it's not, if we're communicating that change, it's not just a top down thing, but that you're actually enlisting the opinions and feedback of your staff.
Yeah.
So it's not just like, hey, I'm making this change and everyone needs to deal with it. It's more like, hey, this is the new vision, this is the new mission, and we want everyone to be a part of building this.
Yeah.
And we want to do this in a way that has the least negative impact and the most positive impact. So that's really important, is to be inspiring and enrolling your teams, not just giving orders. So it'll be mocking conversations. For some people, it's actual presentation decks too.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can you have a certain arc
Yeah.
in a way that is compelling and inviting?
Do you ever hear that companies are still doing that retreat model where they would go away on a retreat together as a team, kind of try to realign and refocus priorities? Is that still a thing with companies given pandemic?
It's starting to. I mean, it's more on, I would say, when I see that, it depends on the size of the company. If the
Yeah.
company's small, you can do that and have everyone there. If
Yeah.
it's a larger company, it's usually going to start with upper leadership. And then,
Mm.
and then people will also bring in organizational change management consultants. That's out of my scope at that point, when
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
really have to get it to everyone. But I would say, for me, my work is really helping the CEO, the founder, to stand in their conviction, and and even in the face of resistance to that change, because there will be,
Yeah.
that they are able to continue moving forward.
That's great. And I know you have the rebrand coming up, so we're going to highlight that when we share your links to your new site. So what do you want people to experience when they come to your new brand and learn about you?
Well, my brand is not much farther from my last one. So if you Google
Yeah.
me, you'll see a lot about the Right Brain Entrepreneur, because of my experience as an art therapist and bringing that creative thinking in. I'm still doing that, but my previous brand was really focused on the nuts and bolts of business, and also I would work with impact driven entrepreneurs, but I was way more broad in terms of who I was serving.
Mm.
Now my new brand is really directed towards people that understand that our systems are oppressive, racist, and they want to be a part of the solution. They want to disrupt that on all levels of their business.
Mm.
And the work that I do, because I've been training myself in lots of new modalities. For example, somatic work is something new that I'm bringing in to help release stress and help people get realigned. So I would just say that my toolbox is a lot bigger. I'm not focusing on just creative thinking. I'm talking about inner child work and somatic work, and
Yeah.
we're also talking about copywriting and strategy. So
Yeah.
it's like
It's
whatever
very
my
holistic. I love it. Seems like a little bit what I hear is a more holistic model encompassing,
yeah,
bigger issues than you had been addressing in the past with your
exactly.
work. And that's always beautiful because I love holistic models. That's why we created the company we built, and that's why we do the things that we do too, so we can get more involved on deeper levels instead of just handing a client, oh, here's your roadmap for the next 3 to 6 months. It's
Yeah.
like, well, let's step back and think about this a little bit more. So people are going to be able to read about links in the lower part of the post that we do on the
Mhm.
blog. So you're welcome to put the somatic work that you do, books you're reading. What's something fun you're doing right now? Because I know you guys always have so much fun. So let's end with something fun that you guys are doing or have planned.
You mean fun in some of the stuff that I'm learning, or
Well,
fun in
just
terms of stuff
or
that my husband and I
personally.
are doing?
Yeah, you personally, because I know you guys, to your, again, to testament, you guys are one of the most fun couples I know of that really push each other's boundaries as far as a relationship to have
Yeah.
fun. So maybe
Yeah.
it's something you recently did too.
Yeah, we've been spending I think it's maybe just because we're in San Diego, but we spend a
Yeah.
lot of time in Mexico. We really
Yeah.
love it down there. I'm working on my Spanish. So we tend to go there a lot.
Is it
Um,
Tijuana or past Tijuana?
Past Tijuana,
Okay.
Rosarito, and Sonata.
Yeah.
The 2 weeks I spent was outside of Cabo, and that's another beautiful area. We did a volunteer trip closer to Mexico City, where we worked with people who have disabilities. And so I would say Mexico has kind of been the theme
Well, it's
lately.
a huge, amazing country, right? Right to our
Yeah.
south. Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
But
guys are
I
at the
think,
gateway.
yeah, but I think, we're laying pretty low now though, because there is a way to burn yourself out on the Zen too, right? Like we were traveling too much, and we were like, wait, now this is becoming stressful. So we're
Yeah.
laying low for the rest of the year outside of
Yeah.
maybe going and visiting family over the holidays.
That's awesome. See, I knew you'd have a good answer to that one. So wrapping up, just want to give what's some parting advice to folks who are in this journey, down this path, want to learn more. What was some parting advice to be take away?
Um, I think the biggest piece would be that a couple of things. One is that the and conversation that you and I are having is like
Yeah.
is my piece of advice
Oh, I
would
can't have
be,
that. I have to decide between two. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
to start to look at how you can start to answer with an and.
Yeah.
And that really opens up the creativity and the resourcefulness, and to start to look for evidence for what you want to have. You have a possible business model in mind where, look, Brandon was just telling me about someone who created a coffee company, and even down to the place where the coffee is sourced, she's paying a livable wage. Like all
Yeah.
these things that
All
you
the way
normally
back.
don't
Yeah.
see in the coffee industry, that no one would probably think is possible. But the more you look for the impossible, you're going to see evidence for other people doing it. So start looking for the evidence. That's going to help increase your confidence, because it absolutely is possible. There's people doing it already. And I think the last thing I would say is just my favorite quote, which courage is not the lack of fear, it's having fear and acting anyway. And a lot of people think, oh, I have to be confident, I have to not be afraid before I can take action.
No.
No, the way you become confident and move through fear is through action. And that's why
Yeah.
people hire us, right?
Yeah. No, I love it. No,
Is
I love
to
it. And
hold
that
them
I've
lovingly
had
do that.
multiple clients cry on camera over the last few years, and I say, watch this privately and grow through it. So thank you so much for your time today. I love getting a chance to talk with you. It's been really
Thanks.
insightful. I'm excited to read the blog post and share that with the world. And I'm excited for the rebrand of StephanieStaidle.com, right?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well,
It's a
stay
little nerve
tuned for
wracking,
that.
but I'm excited.
Yeah. So, as you know, folks, we are here as a free resource website. You are not alone. We have your back. People have been through this. That's why we share all these great resources with everyone. So, stay well, take care of yourselves, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.